Man, is Ethereum in big trouble and risk of being censored? Yes, major people in the crypto space are debating this exact scenario right now, and this could be the major thing, which has got one core Ethereum developer saying that we should just pack up and go home, and that the idea of having a decentralized, permissionless blockchain could just be a pipe dream. We're going to take a look at what is exactly going on, what has fueled this debate, and what are the different scenarios being played out, because not a lot of people are explaining exactly what is going on. So make sure you hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. As always, if you want to buy in crypto, you can support the channel using the links in the description to BYBIT or BitGet. They offer you guys a great bonus. It all started last week, guys. We spoke about this. The US Treasury has a department called the OFAC, which you're going to be hearing a lot more about, and that is the Office of Foreign Assets Control. They decided to sanction a mixer, a cryptocurrency virtual mixer called Tornado Cash, and along with it, they decided to sanction the USDC addresses linked to some of these Tornado Cash mixing contracts. So if you want to know what's going on, you want to get caught up to what Tornado Cash is, what this sanction is, I'll link up the video here so you can go watch that. But this is now escalating to people wondering whether Ethereum, and particularly Ethereum 2.0, could become censored. Can it no longer be truly decentralized and permissionless? And what does that mean? What does it mean to be censored? We're going to come across all that. We're going to cover off exactly what is going on step by step. So bear with me as we navigate through this, as this is literally hot off the press. A bunch of different hypotheticals in there, but we need to play this out in our mind so we know exactly what is going on and what the different scenarios can be. Now, first and foremost, we need to take a look at what is going on. And what I want you guys to look at here is we need to take a look at ETH 2.0. And we need to look at who are the main beacon chain depositors right now. And what you will notice is that there is a concentration, and this has been going around Twitter. So a few people have been tweeting this and pointing out to this fact. And I'm going to show why this is important step by step. They've shown that about 4 of these players, if you take the big ones here, Lido, Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, control 60% of the ether used to secure Ethereum's beacon chain. Now, why is this the case? Very simply, you guys go onto Coinbase, you put Ethereum in there, and you stake into the ETH 2.0 contract. Coinbase or Binance or whichever app you use to do that, whole bunch of retail amounts of Ethereum, and it's all staked in ETH 2.0, right? So it's staked ETH. They hold the mass control of this. Therefore, they are the biggest validators on ETH 2.0. This is very different to the current system on proof of work, where the miners are in control through mining using their ASICs and the rigs that they've got set up. Big difference, right? This is proof of stake now, where those who stake the most Ethereum on the new chain, on the beacon chain, on ETH 2.0, have control of what blocks pass and get pushed to the network. And again, we're going to go through this slowly, so do not worry if you're struggling to keep up. Now, 4 of those 4 control about 60% of the ETH. Now, the problem arises that now that the US Treasury Department, with what happened with the sanctions, and by the way, since these sanctions happened, I just want to update you on a few things that have happened. Since this sanction happened, we saw that Ethereum major infrastructure providers, things like Infura, Alchemy, which many of you guys may or may not use, they've restricted access to data on Tornado Cash smart contracts. Circle, which is the company that powers USDC, one of the biggest stablecoins out there, begun denying service to accounts that have interacted with Tornado-linked addresses, right? So this is like, I don't know if you guys remember being at school and like somebody would say, oh, that person over there's got the lurgy. This is like the lurgy, because the OFAC have in essence said that anybody, without clearly defining this, anybody who's remotely involved with Tornado Cash will be heavily fined and penalized. So now nobody wants to touch it. Nobody wants to touch it, right? It's like they almost make an example of Tornado Cash, and many people, I think some prominent people, have come out and said that, oh, it's one of the things we're just gonna have to accept. It's gonna have to be, it's gonna have to be the sacrifice we make for the greater good, is to let Tornado Cash go. But that's wrong. When you're making a stand for decentralization, for permissionless, you can't let a precedent be set on one case. And I speak at length about the whole Tornado Cash issue in my video, which I'll link up so you guys can understand what's going on. But a platform which is used a lot for good just because some people are using it for bad, and it's a smart contract which is completely decentralized. How do you sanction such a thing? You're just setting a very, very bad precedence, showing that you are anti-decentralization, you are anti-permissionless, right? So this is really, really important, and we're going to get a bit closer to that. So in essence, all of these, Infura, Alchemy, USDC Circle, who are denying service to anybody that have interacted with Tornado Cash, they have shown that they just don't want the lurgy, right? They don't want to touch it because then they're at risk of the OFAC saying, oh, Circle, we're going to have to penalize you, we're going to have to suspend you, or etc., sanction you. So everybody is just staying away, and that is not good right now. So let's fast forward this. So now that the OFAC have set this precedence, the question which people have started raising on Twitter is, what would these big players, particularly these four, right? You've got like the four we were looking at. Let's take a quick look here again. The big ones, Lido, Coinbase, Kraken, Binance, together they control 60% of Ether. This is big. On proof of stake, if you own about a third of the network, just 30% of the stake, you can be a real nuisance. If you own obviously majority, 51%, you're much more of a nuisance. If you own 2/3, which is almost where they're at, 60%, 66%, you are unstoppable. At that point, the only solution to counteract this censorship, so if all those four companies decided to listen to the OFAC, if they decided to censor, then the only way would be to do a hard fork. And we're going to navigate that shortly. So the hypothetical is this, which everybody's proposing. They're saying, what would happen? What would you do if the OFAC asked you as four companies to sanction certain transactions, censor certain transactions on Ethereum? Okay, now in order to understand what that means, we need to understand how this works. So let's take a step back and understand exactly what we're talking about here. On proof of stake, this is not proof of work. On proof of stake, when you initiate a transaction on Ethereum as a user, it's added to the mempool, right? Which is like all your transactions waiting for approval. Then what happens is you got all of these big pile of transactions. Then the validators, in this case, or miners if you're in proof of work, but in this case for ETH 2.0, it's validators, validating the network. So these guys, Binance, Lido, Coinbase, all these guys, which I showed you on the pie chart, they will then come and assemble the blocks, right? They select a bunch of transactions from this big pile and they'll formulate a block. Then they take that block and they push it to the wider network for approval, right? So the wider network is approving this. So the argument lies, if the OFAC come out and say, okay, we want you, all the validators, to comply with our regulations. We want you to sanction anything, any transaction which is to do with Tornado Cash, for example, anything else in the future they decide to do, right? The question is, are those guys going to comply? Because if they do comply, they own 60% of the network. And they can cause a big nuisance. They can start censoring the network. They can reject transactions. And it could be a big headache. You will no longer have a decentralized network. You will no longer have a permissionless network. And that vision would be just a pipe dream. Now, this is what comes on to this gentleman here, Lane, who was one of the core developers on Ethereum. This is what he says. You had one job, censorship resistance. It's the one thing that makes all the pain worthwhile, all the obnoxiousness, slow, painful decentralization theater. If you can't do that one thing, there's no point in any of this, and we should all pack up and go home already. Ethereum is truly on the verge, and I don't think enough people are paying attention. Damning indictment, right? This is somebody who's built Ethereum, who knows what the purpose and the vision is behind it, and it doesn't feel good right now, right? It's a little bit of a worry. And then this question was then posed to the main validators, right? So the question was posed by this gentleman here, who Lefteris, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and he tweeted at the main handles, which we covered off. If regulators ask you to censor at the Ethereum protocol level, in other words, what we just explained, if they say, you know, there's some Tornado Cash transactions there, do not push them to the block, do not submit it, will they go ahead and do that? So he gives them options. A, comply and censor at the protocol level. B, shut down the staking service and preserve network integrity, i.e. turn off your staking. So if you're a Coinbase in this case, turn off staking. Do not accept retail investors like you and I to stake on Coinbase. Therefore, you're not a validator, and you step back and say, I'm not conforming to the OFAC, and you continue running your company, albeit you would have lost a bunch of revenue from your staking features. And what happened was, you had Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, arguably one of the biggest there, saying it's a hypothetical we hopefully won't actually face. But if we did, we'd go with B, I think. got to focus on the bigger picture. There may be some better option C or a legal challenge as well that could help reach a better outcome. Now, I think the market is okay with his answer right now. I think it was, I think this is the reality is what could he have really answered, right? If he said no, of course we're going to censor. I mean, he wouldn't say that, right? The fact he says we'll go B, he didn't say definitely. He said I think. And he says there might be some other option, some sort of legal challenge, which I think is probably what would inevitably happen if the OFAC came out and actually asked these companies to censor certain transactions. There would be some sort of legal battle. But this is where the confusion comes into it. You're just going to get into a whole bunch of semantics in terms of aiding and abetting. I'm no legal specialist, but this could get really, really messy. And this is not great for the Ethereum network. Right? This is not great. And this is one of the weaknesses you get from moving across from proof of work, which is what all the Bitcoin maximalists are laughing and saying, I told you so to the Ethereum community. I'm still heavily invested in Ethereum, but it is a cause for concern. You have to think about it. So coming back to the whole legal battle, I mean, just to remind you, I said, the validators go and take the mempool with all the transactions and they just compile them. They pick a couple of transactions, they compile them, and it's the rest of the network which then pushes it through, right? Which then says, yep, we accept it to the Ethereum onto the ledger. So in that case, who is it that is accepting or aiding and abetting? Is it the person who's compiling the transactions, who doesn't necessarily, sit there looking for the ones, oh yeah, I want to push the Tornado Cash one through? Or is it the person who, as all the other validators do, even though it's not my block, the rest of the validators have to accept it onto the network, right? Or are they aiding and abetting? So where does this stop? And this is one of the big problems we have. Now, here's another issue. What is the solution, right? Let's say we go ahead because, as investors, if you've got any serious amount of wealth in any of these protocols, you've got to engage your brain to think about these things. I know they're complex, but we've got to sit down and actually go a few steps ahead. We can't say, oh, you're thinking too far ahead. You have to. This is your job to do that, right? So we need to sit there and go, okay, what if this did happen? So what if on this list, what if all of these guys here, the top 60% of the network, decided to say, okay, OFAC, we're a business, right? We don't care about, what Brian Armstrong thinks. As a business, we have shareholders. We need to do what's right. We don't want you shutting us down or sanctioning us. We're going to listen to you. And they all four make that decision, which is very possible. Now you have a censored Ethereum blockchain where certain transactions can be censored. This is now no different from any other company, whether it's Facebook, whether it's Instagram, whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Apple, who give data to the government as and when they need it. It is back to permission-based. It is not permissionless, and it's not what the core developers, like I shared with you with Lane, set out to accomplish. That was just a pipe dream it never achieved. So what is your solution? If they got to that point where 60% agreeing to censor, your only other option is a user-activated soft fork, right? Which is what Bitcoin also did. So you could soft fork out of it. You could eliminate the stake of any entity that systematically engages in the base layer censorship. So anybody who was doing censorship, let's say it was Coinbase or Binance, you could say, okay, we're gonna hard fork, so copy and paste. And on our second version, we're going to get rid of whoever was doing the censorship. We'll get rid of their stake and we'll carry on with just the people who are being permissionless and not censoring. Okay, you could do that. It'd be a pain every time, let's say Binance did it, you soft forked, and then Coinbase did it, you soft forked, and then Lido did it, then Kraken did it, and you just keep soft forking. But also, you have another big problem. And here's the problem, which nobody's talking about. The problem is USDC. Now, when the proof of work when the proof of stake fork goes live, what you're going to notice is this. You've got this argument between two camps going on right now. Okay, you've probably heard about this. You've probably followed that. Some people want to continue running the proof of work chain. Now, what's the issue with that? You've got proof of work here, and you've now got your beacon chain ETH 2.0 proof of stake here. But now you've got some people, including Justin Tron, from Overtron, saying, I want to keep running the proof of work chain because some people still believe in it, right? Well, the problem you have is things like USDC, one of the stable coins. Once you double copy and paste, what happens to the circulating supply of your USDC? It doubles, right? You now have double the amount of USDC out there. You have it on the proof of work chain and you have it on the proof of stake chain. But the amount of money, the collateral, the backing of the USDC only sits in one bank account, right? It sits with Circle, and that doesn't double overnight. So they can only support one chain. And we know Circle are saying they're going to support the proof of work chain. Sorry, the proof of stake chain, right? So they're going to support ETH 2.0. So even if you did keep your proof of work stake, you wouldn't have USDC. And this is what causes most of the problems. This is not as simple as doing a user-activated hard fork on Bitcoin, where you don't have all these services piled on top. With Ethereum, you've got stable coins, you've got DeFi, you've got all these other projects layered on top in the smart contract platform, where it's not so easy just to do these user-activated smart forks. So even in this ETH 2.0, we've learned the lesson from going proof of work to proof of stake that you cannot do so without USDC. It'll be a big, big drain on the network, and we don't even know how the network would hold up without USDC, right? So to think that if in the future ETH 2.0 is running, these guys decided to censor and you're just going to do user-activated fork, you'd have to do that without USDC. You'd have to come up with another stablecoin or just rely on Tether and some of the more decentralized ones in order to navigate. You'd have to make, because obviously where Coinbase goes, Circle is going to go. They're attached at the hip. So there you have it, guys. Bunch of stuff going on, lots to digest right now. And the reality is we don't have the answer. But one thing I can give you is this. And the question was arised by Erica on Twitter. And she said, let's say that all the guys decided to censor. Would you, X, consider the censorship an attack on Ethereum and burn their stake, i.e. what we're talking about, slash them out of it if it's Coinbase, or X, tolerate the censorship? And if you scroll down, you get Vitalik's response, which is probably what you were expecting. He voted X. He would want to slash their stake and he would want to take them out of the network. So there you have it, guys. An absolutely crazy piece of data for us to analyze there. Hopefully I broke that down in an appropriate fashion for you guys. If you still don't understand what I'm talking about, tag me in the Discord. I'll be more than happy to cover off some questions in there. Guys, don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe. If you appreciate this type of content, then do check out the links in the description to BYBIT or BitGet. If you want to trade any cryptocurrency, make sure you get involved in our community and all the other fun stuff in the description in terms of our Telegram and our Discord and all that fun stuff. Go watch this video here, and I'll see you in the next one.